All right, hey guys, it's Josh coming back at you from South Korea. So sorry there was a bit of a break in the videos. I just got out of quarantine and I was working on the process of getting a video so I could tell you guys about it, and then we had an exercise drop. So I've been a little bit busy, but back to it now. So today I want to talk to you guys about the process of getting a vehicle, getting your license, getting insurance, how the whole thing works to be able to drive and operate a vehicle in South Korea. All right, so first question is who exactly can drive in Korea? Who can operate a vehicle? So there's two scenarios. E7 and up, you can drive at any point in time. You are automatically authorized to operate a vehicle. All right. E5 to E7. You can operate a vehicle and purchase one and drive it on base only if you live off base, all right? So you're going to need to prove throughout this process that you live off base. So you're gonna have to get an apartment and sign a lease before you go down these avenues that we're gonna talk about today. So just something to be aware of. All right, so the first step is that you have to complete some training, all right? And that is on the JKO website. It's gonna be basically how to drive in Korea 101. It is about a 4 hour long CBT if you just run straight through it. It's pretty in depth but good info, and definitely pay attention to that because driving is a little bit different here. It's pretty similar to driving in the US, but there are some changes that if you aren't aware of, you will get a ticket, get yourself in trouble, hurt someone. So definitely pay attention to that. And then once you complete the CBT, a test will unlock on JKO as well. And I'll put a couple links in the description, and you will just complete both that CBT and the test and then print out both those certificates. And here's a picture of what those look like, what those course codes are.
Okay, so looking here at the JKO courses, the USFK-US002 is the web training, the CBT you will take, and the USFK-US002-B is the actual test that you will have to take after the training.
Okay, so now that you've completed your training, you're going to go to the LRS, and you're going to need to prove that you've completed the training, show some documentation, and then they're going to give you some more documentation to take to pass an ID. All right, so it's kind of a multiple step process. So when you go to LRS after you've taken the training, you're going to bring your certificate for both the CBT and the test you took, showing that you've passed it and completed it. You're gonna take that, your stateside driver's license, your ID, and if you're an E5 or E6, your lease that proves you live off base, all right? You're gonna take those items to LRS. They're gonna give you some documentation that you will then need to take to pass an ID, all right? So for me, it was a little rectangular sheet of paper. That was all they gave me, and I took that to pass an ID. All right. So whatever the LRS gives you at that point, you're going to take to pass an ID, and then pass an ID will give you a license at that point. All right. So something to take note of. If for whatever reason pass an ID is closed and you're trying, to get in a car as fast as possible, you can operate a vehicle on the peninsula for 30 days after your quarantine date ends with a stateside driver's license. So just something to take into consideration. Okay, so the next step in the process obviously is finding a car to drive. All right, so there's two ways you can do this. You can go through a private seller or you can go through a dealer. I myself went through a private seller. That just seemed to be easier for me and more convenient, just as I shopped around. But I have talked to a couple people that have gone to dealerships. They like the experience. Just something to be aware of. If you go through a dealership, they are going to be a little more expensive for the vehicle because you're getting a little bit more of a service-based experience with that. So that's going to increase the price of the vehicle. And on top of that, they're going to add commissions onto your vehicle price, whatever's listed. And you can anticipate that. All the dealers I spoke to, they were adding about 500,000 won onto the price of the vehicle. So if you were looking at that, just anticipate paying another extra $500 on top of whatever whatever the listed price is, all right? So I myself, like I said, I went through a private seller. There's a couple of Facebook groups, and I'll put those links to some that I use in the comment section. But there's plenty of them. Just get on Facebook and look for Osan used cars or Camp Humphreys used cars, and you'll find a plethora of people selling their cars. All right. So these are typically service members who are coming to the end of their tour, and they're just looking to recoup some of that cost that they spent buying the car, so you can get a pretty good deal at that point. All right, so once you've found a car, either way, you're gonna meet up with the seller. In my scenario, I met up with the private seller. We just met at the Chirumi Lodge here on base. I did a little test drive, and then we signed over the vehicle. At that point, I cut him a check, and you know, we closed the deal at that point. The next step in the process, though, is you're not done with the seller. You and the seller have to go to the DMV, and now there's 2 DMVs. There's one on Camp Humphreys, and there is one in Pyeongtaek City. I went to the one in Pyeongtaek City, and from my experience, it was awesome. Everyone there spoke English really clearly, and there was no miscommunication, and I was in and out of there in 10 minutes. So at the DMV, basically, you take that bill of sale that you sign, and you are transferring the registration and the vehicle's title from one owner to the other, from the seller to the buyer, all right, at that point. Really easy, and as far as the Korean government was concerned, at that point, the car was mine and I was responsible for it. Okay, something to note. Before, just like any country, before you start driving the vehicle around, you need to have insurance, okay? So there are a couple avenues to get insurance here in Korea. You can either go with a Korean company. I've heard that Samsung has Korean insurance, although a lot of people have told me that the Samsung insurance is a lot more expensive than what you could typically pay, and the other option would be USAA, which was super cheap and super easy for me. I just did it all over the phone, and gave them the VIN number, my driving record, and we were good to go. It was, I think, $100 for the year for me, so I would recommend getting with USAA. If you got a problem, I guess there's other options in Korea, but I think I hear that Samsung's way more expensive than USAA, so that's what I would recommend doing. All right. Okay, so you got your insurance, you got your registration, you got your license. The last step in the process is to go back to Pass an ID and register the vehicle with the base. So with US monitoring, I guess it's probably the DBID system, the same system they use for ID cards. So you're just gonna go in there, you're gonna bring all the information from the Korean DMV with you, your proof of insurance, and you're going to go back to Pass an ID, and they are going to do one of two things. They're either going to transfer the barcode that was already on the car if you bought it from another SOFA member. All right, it's going to have a barcode on it. They're going to transfer that to your name, and it's going to be tracked under your name. If you bought this from a Korean national and it was never registered with the base, they're just going to print out a new barcode, and that barcode, that sticker, needs to stay with the vehicle throughout the life of it, as long as you are transferring it to another SOFA member. If you sell your car to a Korean national, that sticker needs to stay with you. If it's going to another SOFA member, it stays with the vehicle. All right. Okay, so I think I covered everything. If you guys have any questions in there, let me know, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So I'm gonna make another one on the process of getting an apartment downtown, how that worked for me, and some of the things to look out for. It's been awesome so far in Korea. I'm really enjoying it. Team Osan is amazing. So thanks guys, more to come.